Okay, hi Raj. This is Tim Lawson. I dropped an email with some suggestions, and you very kindly emailed me back this morning. So thank you very much for that. Um, you've asked me to clarify a couple of points. So yeah, that's fine. So my point number one um, involves having to hover the mouse to bring up the top menu or top toolbar, so I can then either expand, restore, or minimize um, the um, the item in the workspace. I've asked whether a restore option can be added to the pop-up menu when right-clicking anywhere. So, in fact, we've already got that. As you can see, I've set these toolbars up because on this top toolbar menu, I've got this, and I think by ticking that, that makes this toolbar permanent. I'm not sure what the setting is for that. As you can see, having unticked it, it's actually the bottom one that's disappeared. So tick that. So I've got that set up nicely because I can now ungroup that and I can maximize it, and then I can easily restore it back down, and I can move it back, and that's all great. The problem arises when I get down here and I've got this which appears when I hover and I move the mouse away and it disappears, and actually that's quite responsive. Sometimes these are not, like this one, not very responsive at all. So again, me being me, I quite like visual things. I'd like that toolbar to stay there permanently. I'm not really sure where the option is for that. These are the rows. That's within the table itself, I think. So trying to make this stay where it is, so that I can then easily, sort of maximise it if I want to later on. It doesn't help me, and now, of course, having maximised this one, I almost give myself a problem trying to minimise it, because I've got to then carefully select, and then I've got to move all the way along here, making sure I keep the mouse there, because if I disappear, by the time I get over there, it's just disappeared again. So then I have to come back here, try and get the mouse in the right place. As you can see, I'm having difficulty doing that. So now I've got to be really careful when I move the mouse along here, and now I'm there, so now I can restore that back down. As you can see, that is a lot more difficult than me simply doing that. Too many clicks in my view. So I'd quite like to be able to leave this top toolbar here. I've tried all sorts of things, can't seem to make that work. I'm sure there's a setting that allows me to do that. Maybe you can help. Same with this menu. Again, it's as you can see, I've now got 1, 2. I'm not sure which menu I want, so I'm moving the mouse around. I've finally got the one I want, and then the other one disappears. And again, just want them really both open at the same time. I don't care if I lose a bit of news off of here. I'm able to use my scroll facility on the mouse but it's just having these menus here is a bit reassuring to me that if I want to move them out of the way, or I want to do something with them, I can do so, rather than having to go through this whole process of trying to sort of little bit fiddly anyway. So that's really what that point was. I did think of one resolution, which was to have anywhere in here on the right click menu just a restore button. So let's say, for example, if I have enlarged this one to full screen, I've lost my menu, I could right click here, and then there's an easy option for me to just simply restore this back down to its normal size. But again, I think ideally what I'd want is that menu just to be present all the time. So that's that one. So that's item number one. Item number two, you've kindly said you certainly think you can look into taking my suggestion on board, which was to have any data that is higher than the Reuters poll, or the expected to be green, and I'm assuming that and again let's just maximize this to give me all the columns. I'm assuming because this is 2.8, we've got some amended data, which okay, that's fine, and then we've got this actual higher than maximum expectation. So again, that higher or lower arrow should stay there, and that is because it's higher and lower than this minimum and maximum there. But obviously, if that's gone up, if this figure was green, if it's gone up, or red if it's gone down, and simply leave it as the sort of amber colour if it hasn't shifted. I think that's a really good visual thing. You've taken that on board. Hopefully that's something that could be introduced at another time, so that's great. So again, now I've got to try and restore this back down, and again my menu's not there, so I've got to try and get this other menu up. I think that doesn't do it. Sometimes that works doing that, but and now I've got to oh, there it is. Okay, let's just move along here carefully, restore that back down, and then I'm back to where I started. So again, that brings me back to point number 1, which is a bit of a nuisance. Number 3, could another column be added or option be added to save any release data to a local disk? Well, actually I think I resolved this myself. For example, Halifax house prices, if I right click that, I can just share that to myself via email, or send. I'm sure there was an option here. Send a snapshot via email. Again, that's fine. You know, I don't need any more than that, so we can scrap number 3. Number 4 was could we add a column or option to save a data release to a local disk? A column could be added to say when the article expires. Well, you say 13 months. I don't know how I go about retrieving data up to 13 months old. So what does happen is, I think at the end of every day, the previous day's stuff disappears off, and then it's difficult for me to then find the exact time of a data release. So really that brings me into point number 5, and what I mean there, and I've already pre-selected one of these, so I'm just going to drag it onto the screen. I was having trouble uploading the data page earlier. So basically this is the labour costs revised, which was released 7th at 13:30. Let's see if we can find it on here. Labour costs revised 13:30. Can't find it now. That's just typical, isn't it? Prior period was 0.9. Why is that not on there? It's not on there for some reason. But anyway, my point was that on this news feed we actually have the time down to the second. So we got so 13:30 dead on, 13:30 dead on, 13:34 and 17 seconds. It's quite important for me to know exactly to the second when this data is released. So if it was in this box somewhere, so for example international trade, if I left click on that, it will open this up. It might or might not load this now, but once I left click on that, there ought to be somewhere where we've got so we've got a date here, so 27th of March 12:30, and again you'll have to forgive me, but this is 13:30 on this one, so I'm not sure whether that was the release time or not. I think that might have been the release time. I could be wrong, but I just like this time, if this is the actual release time, to say that it's the actual release time. So you could even have, release due with when the, so duplicate this information here, release due 6th of March. In fact, yeah, that's the 27th of March, so that's not actually the date, but yeah, so release due 6th of March 1330, released, or sort of prior released or whatever, with the time and the seconds that actual data on here was released. So as you can see, we've got 59.88 billion prior. So so this has updated this to the latest figure. So I don't know what this date relates to. I was assuming, so I've misread this saying the 27th. So I think that should just be, we should just have when it was due and when it was actually released. Somewhere on here, somewhere that's easy to find. Just makes sense to me to have that information available at my fingertips. As I say, at the moment, I kind of have to scroll through here. So in fact, if I go back to 12:30, that might prove that this was released a little bit early today. No, that's not on this particular news feed, is it? So like I say, so I can't always rely on this to have the up to the second news when it was released to the second, and so I think the best thing to do would be to have that information when I left click to open it. Hopefully it's not going to open it for some reason. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon, I have to click on the link, don't I? Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, just to have that information somewhere in there so that I can actually find out the actual release date. As you can probably see, this is all set up with Traders for Traders. I'm a student with Traders for Traders, so for us to be able to know the actual second the data was released, that's quite important in terms of us being able to prove that we traded on a data release. If the data release was released early, we are able to trade off that, but we need to be able to prove it. So that's kind of the main reason I'd want the release date to the second. It just gives me that extra element of cover, so that I'm not breaching Traders for Traders rules, but also in terms of me being able to look back on a chart to find out, right, why did price move there? Oh, well, there's no data release unless it was released early, and then I can go to the data release and find out which one was released early and when that movement came. That just makes utter sense to me to be able to do that. So maybe that's something you can help out with. And again, if I just move my email over here, that's what I've highlighted in the picture I sent you in my original email. So yeah, maybe that's something you can help with. So yeah, apologies for the slightly long video, but I thought maybe it's easier for me to show you and to demonstrate these issues with the, I say issues with the menus, it's a setting somewhere. I just haven't worked out how to do it. Maybe you can help. And also, as I say, with the with the sort of actual seconds released on here. So hopefully it's a bit of food for thought for you. Thanks for the quick response again, it's much appreciated. So I kind of, generally speaking, really do love the software. I think it's absolutely brilliant, so you're doing a great job. Thanks for now. Cheers.